People say that there's no, you should never eat fast food. Get out of here.
I know.
It's the best thing for you when you've been sick, right? That's what we're saying. We're declaring it here.
Yeah.
It's the best thing for you. If you've been sick,
hash browns,
cheeseburgers. Yeah, McDonald's, breakfast. Go get it. Science.
Oh my gosh.
We just did an experiment.
Hashtag science, people.
Hashtag science. Hashtag science, bitches.
And welcome to Middleish, the podcast about moderation in all things. I am Erin Green.
And I am Michael Bray.
Hello. What's up?
Hello. What's up? How's it going?
It is
How's kicks?
full on. It is full on summer. How's kicks?
How's kicks? You never heard that before? Like how's things? How's stuff? How's it going? Yeah.
New one for me. That must be
really
an Ontario, Oregon thing.
Or it might be like hip 1956 language.
That's
what it might be.
It might be dad jokes, except
I'm
it's
just
like
dad.
A
cool
hip.
daddy-o.
Yeah, daddy-o.
I don't know if cool's in there. I don't know if cool fits in there anywhere. I think it might just be like antiquated.
Cool. I know. I say things like awesome all the time, and I'm like, oh, there's got to be a better. Sometimes I'll be like sick, because
sick, bro.
That's sick.
Yeah,
but. You
could say like totally tubular if you wanted.
I could. Yeah. Righteous.
I
bro. Think, yeah. I think sometimes I'll throw out something really antiquated, like splendid, just to throw people off.
Splendid. Is that antiquated?
I think so. How often do you hear the word splendid in your week?
Today? I've heard it a lot. Like
I've said it like
in a minute. It's everywhere, Erin.
You know what I want to find, because I'm working with teenagers, I want to find like some kind of an app or I don't know, newsletter that sends me like the hip language of the week, like the word of the week or something, or the phrase of the week, so I can understand how to communicate with them sometimes. And like some of the, they use like acronyms and things on text, like IRL in real life and whatever, TTLY, or TTYL. That's what it is. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So I need to learn that stuff because I don't have a teenager to teach me.
I think a newsletter to tell you what cool hip language is very uncool.
It's for old people like me who need a freaking newsletter to land in my inbox so I can actually, that's
cool
why.
Lingo newsletter.
You wouldn't call it a newsletter.
Oh, you wouldn't?
I mean, you'd call it something way
like an email blast,
like something sick. It'd have a sick name.
Yeah, like the sick lingo, something. I don't know. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
The update, like a publication.
The down low. People don't say down low either, do they?
I still do.
We need to stop
low
going
down more than down low.
We need to stop going down this train because I'm just going to keep embarrassing myself. And our listeners are probably like, enough, y'all suck. You guys are like old school.
Yeah.
We are old farts. Sorry.
Well, how you been? How you been the last month?
I'm hanging in there. We have all kinds of house projects going on. We're getting our patio landscaped, like the little area off our patio redone. We had trees taken out. So we're just kind of doing the home ownership thing. I've been riding my bicycle a lot. We have been camping. We volunteered for a mountain bike camp a couple weeks ago. That was really fun. And then Matt got COVID. So that's been a trip.
Super fun.
Just a quick PSA, everybody. I am not going to sit here and say anything about decisions around vaccines or masks or any of that stuff. All I'm going to say is the variant that's been going around this July, at least over here in the West, is a nasty one. So be safe out there, please. Be healthy. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones because it sucks.
Because it sucks.
Yes. COVID
Yeah.
sucks.
Aaron was telling me a little bit about it before we started recording. Matt had a rough go.
Matt
was
has
not
had a
feeling very
rough,
well for quite a while.
Matt's had a rough time. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, I'm glad that aside from that, you're good. Yeah. You guys are having
What have you
warm
been?
weather, lots of sun, lots of
Yep.
outside time. Nice.
Yep. Just like summer, we are summering hard when Matt's not sick. We're riding a lot. We're enjoying outside. So it's been good. What about you?
We have reached the more relaxed portion of our summer, which I'm excited about. June was pretty busy did a few trips. I had a camp. She was in swim meet or swim team. Sure, last swim meet was last weekend and they had the banquet. So like that's done because that was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, every morning, and then swim meet for 6 hours every Saturday. So for, I don't know, 6 weeks or something. So it's kind of nice it's fun to do all that, but it's nice to not have it. And so now we're just kind of like, we don't have any trips planned.
Yeah.
No one has, any kind of like practice or rehearsal or anything to get to. So this could kind of be summer now. We get to, well, I don't get to, but they get to forget what day of the week it is. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
No, it's just time to play and have sleepovers and watch movies and swim and just have fun.
Mhm.
So that's kind of our objective for the next 6 weeks before school starts, or 5 weeks, or whatever it is, 4 weeks. It's really soon. I think we start like April or August 14th or 15th. Like it's like 4 weeks. It's stupid.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
it goes
I'm
by so
excited to
fast.
have
I know.
Just time. Yeah. So, but we're good. It's
Nice.
hot as balls here. Like it's so freaking hot and humid. Like our heat index every day is like 107, 105, 107.
Ugh.
Like it's just
Ugh.
rough.
Oppressive.
But it's good.
Mhm.
Oppressive. Yeah.
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 Which is why the summertime, I have to remember that people that live in the really hot southern states, your kind of summertime activities really start around like April, May, and early June. And then by the time you get into like what we consider summer, it's like shut down. You're staying inside. You can't do anything because it's so hot. Even at like 6 a.m., it's really hot. So
yeah. Like you take the dog out at like 11 and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, forget it.
They open the door, just like punches you in the face with heat. It's like, okay.
Ugh,
it does not cool down much. But yeah, it's like get out early or don't get out. Kind of stay inside because it sucks.
Ugh. So
all right.
I have a quick request from our listeners. Before we dive in, we always talk about, hey, we need to bring this up at the beginning of the episode. Well, hey, we're doing it now.
I was going to
Michael
do this.
and I,
we are in sync.
Yes. Sweet. See,
like I was just kind of waiting for a spot. I'm glad you did it.
Yes.
Hey, we're in sync for once.
We are. Check it out.
Kidding.
You can hop in anytime you want with whatever you wanted to say, but basically I'm just asking our listeners to support us in some way beyond just listening. I hear so much feedback from people who listen to our podcast that get a lot out of our discussions. Please share it with somebody.
Yep.
Give that podcast episode to a friend. Tell a family member about it. I have friends who are providers. They're doctors or PAs or nurses, and they tell people about our podcast. Thank you so much for doing that.
Very much.
If you want to support us we do this podcast for free. Like we have a few supporters. We love them. Thank you so much for supporting us monthly.
Yes, very much.
But you can go on to Anchor and you can support us monthly with a nominal fee and keep this podcast going. We have no intention of stopping it. But it does make it a little more, I don't know, we could do something cool with that kind of support if we got some more monthly supporters. So thank you for listening and spread the word.
Yep. And, rate, review, subscribe, all that stuff really helps. And I always look at it like this, like if you're a regular listener of this podcast, it's because you find this beneficial or at the very least entertaining, right? Like we try to have fun with it. There's a reason you listen to this over and over and over. And that reason is very likely to connect with somebody else. So if you're listening regularly, it's probably because there's value here, and sharing that value with a friend or a family member. I guess my question is like, why wouldn't you want to, and I don't mean that in a guilty way, but just like genuinely, if there's value here, cool, share it, because
Yeah.
people need value, especially when it comes to like their own health, how to eat, how to move, how to live in healthy ways. Because there's just so much garbage out there that is really actively harmful, that we try to create a message and a podcast and just direction that is just really welcoming to all and beneficial for everyone. So if you find value, share that value. We'd really appreciate it. Yeah.
And that's a great segue into our topic today, because we are talking. I know we're really good at that. We need to have a jingle when
We need
one
a
of us
segue jingle.
nails the segue.
I mean, did I just write it? Segue.
Yeah, you did.
It's pretty awesome.
Like strum your guitar or do something, put a little like down.
It feels kind of like early 90s, like skateboarding, right? Segue.
Isn't that our jam though? Didn't we just admit that we're both kind of stuck in like the daddy-o language? So really, so today's topic is talking about health experts, diet experts, fitness experts, basically any kind of purported experts, and when those experts are maybe wrong, maybe misguided, maybe biased in their opinion or their methods. And Michael and I are very upfront that we have, these certain beliefs through the lens through which we see the health world. And we know that our methods don't work for everybody. And we try and be very cognizant of that when we're working with our clients. We are health experts. We are, fitness, diet experts, like overall wellness experts, but we don't claim to know everything.
Yeah.
I sure as hell don't.
Yeah. Because I mean, we're going to do, I think later on in the month, we're going to do a reel on this kind of stuff. So I don't want to spoil anything, but I know for a fact, Aaron and I, over the last coming up on 14 years that we've both been doing the things, working in the way we work, we've changed our minds a lot on things because we've been like, oh, this really isn't like working out for clients. It doesn't seem to really like serve them in truly healthy ways. Or, for me, it's like, there's a lot of exercises I don't do anymore because I'm like, man, I just feel like the risk to reward isn't worth it. And so we are probably saying things now that in 2, 3, 4 years, we may disagree with. That's not bad. I think that's how this goes. I think as long as people are doing the best with what they have and are really, well-versed in what's you're able to be well-versed in, then cool. But something changing or anything doesn't mean someone wasn't an expert. And we certainly, want you to apply everything we're going to say to us too. We're not like excluding ourselves from this.
Yeah. Be skeptical of experts, except for the two of us.
Except for us. Yeah. Just take
we know
everything we say at face value, please.
I really feel like the more I learn, the less I quote know to be true. When I mean, for a lot of things, that's just kind of how life goes. But in my profession, I feel like there's, at least, I don't know, a few times a year, I have some really profound, holy crap kinds of revelations. And I've been a dietitian for 15 years. So all of a sudden having these things, and they could be like really pretty basic things that I just didn't realize. And I'm like, whoa, I either forgot this fact because I studied it, back in like 2005 or something,
right?
Or I just literally like didn't catch this until now. And so to me, it's always a reminder that you need to remain curious as a practitioner in whatever your craft is. I mean, you could be a financial advisor, you could be a physician or a health expert. You could be a landscaper, like we have working out in our yard. Just be curious about like new methods, new discoveries, things that we thought were true. And this is how it was always done, which I think you're going to talk about the dogma aspect of all of this, but just I guess that's kind of the overarching theme of this, is remaining curious about how health in particular evolves with what we know scientifically.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a reason that I think I don't want to say this. Like, I think a lot of times Okay, it's no mystery, all right? That like most of us want like the magic bullet, the quick fix, that just what's the thing? Give me the thing that's going to make all this easier, right? Like we often approach health changes from a place of like at least some kind of desperation, I think. Like I need this fix now. I can't take this any longer. I've got to do something. And I think when we have that sort of immediacy to it, we are more open to things that maybe aren't as friendly as they could be to us or as
Yeah.
sustainable as we need them to be, because it's all about right now. And I think I'm saying this, I think that's how we get into these kind of dogmatic corners. Like, I think that's often how we kind of get pigeonholed, is because I'm looking for now and quick. I need it to be now and quick because I can't stand being here any longer. And there's so much immediacy, I think, built into the overall narrative and the diet and fitness industries, right? It's like now, quick, now, quick, now, quick.
Mm-hmm.
And so we think that's the way to do this. And we're needing that because we're feeling desperate, and whatever. And so when we are presented with these things, like, I think a lot of times we just grab a hold of them, like, okay, that's it. There it is. It's something quick, something immediate, something easy to understand. So now I'm doing this. And we kind of get backed into these dogmatic corners, I think. And then when we have experts speaking from dogmatic places, they're speaking very sure, very confident about like this very specific approach and not how it might be appropriate for you. It's the only answer for you, not like, hey, try it out and see if you like it. It's like, oh, if you ever want to be successful, this is the only way you'll ever have success. Yeah. And so I think anytime we see that dogma, whether it's from a so-called expert or whether it's like in ourselves, and of course this demands some awareness, within ourselves for sure. But anytime we see that dogma kind of anywhere in there, I think that's a good, I won't say red flag, but maybe mostly red flag, a very dark pink flag, like it's almost red.
Yeah.
Flag to be like, I need to look at this. I need to step back and examine this a little closer. This person that I've been following, and I really like their personality, and I feel like this may be a good approach. If it's super dogmatic, back away from it, and try to get a little more unbiased kind of perspective. And honestly, I mean, I think it's really worthwhile to, like, if they're saying, hey, this is the way you do it, then intentionally go on Google and look for stuff that's in like that would say that in conflict with that, right? Like, what
it's in opposition.
Yeah, because it's better to make a decision from a real informed place, right, rather than that desperation. So.
Absolutely. And this is where it can be really tough for people to sift through this kind of information because, for example, they'll read a book and be like, oh my gosh, Erin, or watch a documentary. I had so many people ask me, what was it in 2019 when, what was that one that came out about veganism? I'm not going to remember the name of it. We're going to have to find it.
Forks in the title, right?
Not Forks Over Knives.
No.
Game Changers. That's what it was called. Game Changers. And I had so many people asking me, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? I think it's really important to ask a trusted expert that has the ability to actually kind of research some things. And like you said, look for that opposing view, because to every argument, there's a counter argument. This is kind of the basis of Middleish, is there's a trade-off and there's a yin and yang to all of these things. There are some health facts and observations and recommendations that we can say with confidence. Like, we know that these kinds of things lead to positive health outcomes, so eating lots of color in your diet, getting enough protein, whole grains, a good balance, living a life that is as low in stress as you can, manage in your life. Like, these are things that we know lead to positive health outcomes. Those are pretty foundational. And just about every health expert out there will agree upon a lot of those basic things. What happens is you get these experts that then get into kind of the weeds of whether it's research, like their own research that they've just taken interest in, or they've really gone down this path of like, so I'm thinking of Dr. Robert Lustig is really big on the fat research. And so anytime you're looking at these like very low sugar, high fat kinds of research papers, his name is often involved. It doesn't mean the guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It just means this is the lens through which he is approaching metabolic health and dietary advice. And so you have to start recognizing that, well, everybody kind of has a lens through which they see things, you know. I always have a radar for food relationship and, you know, those kinds of things. So I see the world through that lens when I'm working with anybody. It doesn't mean everybody's got a problem with their food relationship. It just means that I have my spidey sense, you know, totally peaked for that. And I think that is where we kind of get misled with experts is you have to get to know where some of these experts may have a bias that isn't, you know, it's not nefarious. Like they're not trying to cause harm and they're not trying to mislead anybody. It is simply just the lens through which they see the health world.
Yeah. And hopefully that lens has been built in a really open, curious, honest place. Right. And I think that's a really hard thing to know, I think. Like,
which is why seeking a second opinion is good. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But the truth is, I think I know there are a lot of, you know, health, fitness, diet, nutrition experts out there that they themselves fall victim to the fads, you know, because the reality is like, there's a lot of money to be made in the fitness and diet industries.
Oh yeah.
Right.
We've covered this before. Yeah.
How many $1 billion a year? And it's insane. I just read this morning, the guy who invented the ab roller, you might little thing like this.
Oh yeah.
They sold over $1 billion worth of those. And that was made in like the early 90s, like before there was really internet. There was just like, I mean, it's insane. There's so much money to be made. And a lot of that money to be made is made through fad type stuff, right? What's hot right now, whether it's nutritional approaches, whether it's, you know, certain exercise protocols, because what's hot, if you can jump on that, then there's a good chance you're going to capture a larger group of people's attention because it's what people are hearing about, you know? So if this is hot right now and you're talking about it, and so I just think it's easy. This isn't this can be a grueling industry. I think it can be a pretty tough industry in a lot of ways, but there's also, I see how there can be that call to, you know, maybe if I just like bend these beliefs a little bit, you know, and I can kind of go here. And so these experts, I think they do fall victim to these things at times, and it's not uncommon to see.
Yeah. And I think that's another just reminder to check your, you know, especially if something, so sure, check your sources, right? Like if you read a book or if you find an article or something, ask a trusted healthcare provider, whether it's, you know, you're working with a dietitian, you're working with a trainer, or ask your doctor. I think the other thing is also like Google can be a blessing and a curse. Yeah. I've encountered this with clients where they're like, you know, I got on Google and I started looking at this and I'm like, oh dear, because even for me, it can be hard to vet the right resources and to understand like, well, are they citing their sources and what are those citations? Like, are those citations just like op-eds or like this one-off medical paper that somebody posted on like their clinic's blog? It wasn't peer reviewed. So there's so many layers to sifting through the information. So for you listeners, we are not telling you that you have to suddenly get like some advanced degree in research and understand like how to vet all of this stuff. Basically, if there's, you know, new information, especially if it's presented in this shiny, enticing kind of way, like this is the only way, or this is the magic bullet you've been looking for, be skeptical. but curious,
Yeah.
okay, what are some things that I could be missing here? Start asking the what ifs and the what about, and then start searching out some of that stuff.
Mhm.
If you're into that, or simply go find another trusted expert that, I have a lot of people that come to me
Yep.
just because they know me personally and they
Mhm.
know that I'm a nerd and I'll look up some of the information
Yeah.
and I'll try and find an answer. And there are many times when I'm like, look, I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah.
This is one way to look at it, or this is one idea, but it doesn't mean that it's the only idea. And I can't necessarily find any specific information on it. So, I'm trying to think, I just had one recently where I was like, oh, I have a client who is trying to conceive, and she's an athlete, and she has been through some really, really challenging things with trying to conceive a child. And so our mission has been, let's give your body everything it possibly needs so that you can maintain a certain level of athleticism. She's not training for anything crazy,
Mhm.
but she needs a certain level of exercise for her mental health, just for, that's what makes her happy. So I've been hired to help her maintain a healthy weight status along the way. So she asked me just recently, she's getting ready to go through another round of IVF. And she's like, um, what kind of diet, like, what about like what do they call it? A fertility diet? Like I've heard about like
Mhm.
fertility diets. Are there certain foods I need to be eating? Are there certain, things I could do? And I'm like, whoa, I haven't heard of anything,
Right.
but I'm willing to look it up for you. And so I'll sit down and I'll kind of start poking
Mhm.
around research, peer reviewed research. I'll look at meta analyses. I'll look at, case studies, like all kinds of things. And I end up coming back to a very kind of balanced view of like all the
Mhm.
things we actually know of, you know, a healthy diet should be comprised of, like getting lots of plant
Yeah.
foods and colorful fruits and vegetables, get enough protein, and, all these other things.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, it doesn't mean that there's any harm in trying some other methods or going into a more extreme place. If there is a book that you read or something, that there's people that have
Right.
written books on fertility diets. I just don't know enough to recommend those books or tell you to do it. And you
Mhm.
also have to look at the practicality of following that kind of
Right.
dogma, like that, you know,
Mhm.
trajectory. And so anyway, that's just an example of where, she asked me because I'm a trusted person in her life, and I will try and provide her with the best information that I can find, and
Mhm.
also acknowledge when I just don't have a strong opinion on if this would
Right.
work or not.
Yeah. And you bring up a really good point that I hadn't thought about for this, and that I think when it's a really good sign that if someone you trust, like a coach, like a nutritionist, like a trainer, like a coach, whatever, that you feel like, what, like I trust that they're going to be straight with me. I trust that they're, not doing what they're doing with these, like, based out of these, dogmatic motives and have to
Mm-hmm.
reinforce what I already believe. And I think a really good way to know if they're how they're approaching this is what you just did, is if they're willing to say, I don't know, let me try to find out for you. Right. Like, I don't have the answer. I don't know what the answer is. Right. Because I think a lot of times dogmatic people who just have to be experts, they always have answers, and their answer is always rooted in the thing that they're trying to promote. Right. But if you have a professional, an expert who says, like, I don't know, maybe we try this or this, or let me do some looking up. Let me talk to some
Mm-hmm.
people and get back to you. To me, that's a really good indicator that that person is open. They're going to be honest with you about, facts. Like, it. I don't want to say this. Like, it says something about who they are, I think,
Mm-hmm.
especially in a sort of maybe authoritarian type role, right? For
Mm-hmm.
whatever that field is. They've maybe they've got more knowledge, or they've spent more time, studying this or doing this or whatever. And so you see them kind of in that expert type place. But if that person is willing to openly say, I don't know. I don't know the
Yeah.
answer to that, or I've never heard of that before, or whatever. I think that's a good indicator that you probably have someone there who's going to do their absolute best at being an expert that doesn't come into things from that dogmatic place, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've never had, I don't know if you have, I've never had anyone be upset with me for not knowing. Like, in fact, if anything, it seems
No.
like it works the opposite. You know, I thought
Yeah.
people like, I really appreciate you like just telling me, I don't know. Like, it's, if you're an expert in
Refreshing.
something out there, yeah, I think it works in your favor.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And this is where I really struggle sometimes with like some of these books and documentaries and promotional, media pieces that are out there that are sensationalized in a way. Like the plant paradox is another one that came out years ago and was basically talking about all the bad things around like eating whole grains and plants and beans and whatever. And a lot of those pieces are full of half truths. So it's not that the expert is, I mean, lying through omission, I guess, is how you might put it. But it's hard because the expert isn't exactly wrong in some of those instances. They're just really omitting the whole picture. Like there's other pieces. So I just read a book called Breath.
And for a very specific reason. It's intentional.
Yes.
It's
there's this
intentionally
promotional, which is really frustrating to me because
it's so shitty. It's such a sucky thing to do.
It almost always comes back to some kind of money-making scheme. Like, buy my program, buy my supplements, subscribe to my, class that teaches you how to cook in this way kind of stuff. And you're just like, geez, it's kind of nauseating, like to just see these. And again, the unfortunate thing is these people are very smart and they know their stuff. It's just kind of a sneaky marketing ploy is what it comes into. And they know that if it's marketed in the right way, that people are going to grab onto it and take on that belief. And if the Hippocratic Oath is in place, first do no harm, like following some kind of like, really contrived plant-based sort of diet with like some of these different things is probably not going to cause anybody harm. So that could be like a selling point, or I guess not a selling point, a justification for that expert saying, oh, well, I'm not causing any harm here. I'm just simply promoting this thing that I believe. And guess what? Your beliefs and science may not coincide. So like the facts and your beliefs may not quite line up. And so that's another thing, especially as experts, to be aware of, is when our belief systems start to override some of the facts that are available and say things like, I mean, I was just having a conversation with a friend the other day that he was saying how he hasn't had a drink in a number of days and he just feels great and he's lost weight and he, has been feeling more energetic and all this stuff. And I'm like, look, I like a social drink just as much as like anybody else that I know that likes to just have a glass of wine or a glass of whiskey, whatever. But if there's something that
Why'd you look at me when you said that?
Because you're the only other person here.
Oh, right.
Maybe I'm gesturing to our audience.
It just seemed like it was very pointed. Your look changed, or whiskey, Michael. Sorry.
But just acknowledging that one of the most impactful health changes that I am aware of is avoiding alcohol. I mean, so my belief system is like, I'll joke around with clients sometimes about like, oh yeah, that's time for a glass of wine or something like that. But then I also have to be very transparent about, look, the research says this about alcohol intake. And so that's something that I have become very aware of. If I ever crack a joke or talk about alcohol, I need to be kind of careful about like, well, my belief system is like, oh, sure, I can have alcohol in moderation. But the science also says, if you don't drink, don't start drinking. It's not going to help you. Like,
it's not going to make things better.
There's not enough benefit coming out of that glass of wine to justify taking in that alcohol. So
And we're talking just physical benefit. We're not talking like emotional or mental, right?
Yeah, there's
Because the
definitely
benefits there are
psychological.
huge, obviously.
Yeah.
You know what makes my life better? Booze.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to say that, that was kind of like a roundabout thought. I think I went a lot of different places there,
I
but
don't think so.
just recognizing that, experts aren't necessarily wrong when they present their method, but just know that not all methods work for all people, and belief systems often, conflict with scientific evidence. And so that's something just to be aware of. And just look out for, like you said, the big the big red flags. What'd you call them? Dark maroon or
really dark
pink
flags.
Pink flags. Because the other part of this that I want to point out is that science is always evolving. We are always getting new information. And I have lots of examples to talk about the dietary guidelines here in a little bit, but we are constantly getting new information in these areas. So just because somebody said something 10 years ago doesn't mean they were wrong. They were maybe promoting the best recommendations that we had based on the evidence at the time.
Right. Yeah. Which is a good point. Like, I think that's a really good point. Is like any kind of like science is ever evolving, always, right? Like we're constantly, whether it's, medical science, whether it's, did you see the picture from the Hubble telescope that they just released?
Yes. So crazy.
I stared at that for like 10 minutes last night. I was like, this is unbelievable, right? There's new information. We get to discover and learn and know more things now. And that's the same thing with like the diet and fitness industry, right? There's science behind it. And so as we learn more, we have to adapt to that. So like the thing about an expert is they're an expert, but only in what we know at this point. And that's going to change. We're going to know more things at some point. And so I think with this whole expert thing, maybe my main point is just kind of looking at all of this is like, don't like hinge your beliefs on an expert, on a specific expert. Sure. Like I think it's okay to be influenced by people. There's a lot of people I've been influenced by in my beliefs, but it's because I've trusted them. They've earned a place of trust in my life. They've been consistent with messaging. They've admitted when they're wrong. And they've done enough things that I've gone, I feel like I can trust them to be straightforward with me. There's also been some of those people that have had that place in my life that I don't listen to at all anymore because they got sucked into something. They got caught up in something, right? And it's just like, I just feel like you're more interested in promoting your beliefs than growing as an expert and continuing to be an expert. And so I think it's just really important with all, just like hold all this loosely, don't be afraid to like, let some people go if they just don't seem to be serving you in that sort of like expert leadership kind of way. Don't feel like you have to grab a hold of someone right now. Like you got to get the answer right now because of that immediacy. Like take time to explore, test some waters, maybe talk to some people about, that if there's someone, that some of your friends or family follow, like, hey, why do you like this person? What have they brought to your life? Just, I think so often we got to grab a hold of that and we got to have something we can hinge on and we got to have someone we can put all our trust in. And I just think once we start doing that, there's a good chance we're going to get ourselves into a corner that's hard to get out of.
Yeah.
Because now we've shrunk our field of influence to such a small thing that nothing conflicting is allowed in. And that can often, I think, backfire because I think it's important, like we were talking about, like look up opposing views. It's important to have that conflicting information, especially if you want to know and understand why you believe the things you do. And if you've got an expert who pushes back against that, I think that's another really dark pink flag. But keep these things loose. Hold them loose. If people are, frustrated, I've had clients that I work with that say they've worked with other people who get really defensive if there are questions raised. And I was like, I love questions. Like you ask me anything you want about the recommendations I provide, about some of the
viewpoints that I present on diet and exercise and challenge them by all means, because I will happily, research and learn and look things up, send me articles to read. In fact, I pulled up this article because I wanted to share this. I will make sure that I link it for anybody who wants to go and read it. But I had a client send me this article that is titled, "Why You Need to Do More for Your Fitness Than Just Walking." And it says, the subtitle, "Just walking is not going to make you fit or healthy, period. Yes, you should walk every day, but you should also be doing these other exercises." So and then there's a picture caption that says, "Just walking is not enough for optimal fitness." So already at the very beginning of this article, all we're seeing is this like anti-walking tirade, right? Like
Right.
it admits that sure, walking can help, but it's not all you should be doing. Well, my client who is embarking on a walking consistency sort of program where it really is like, if I can just walk a little bit every day, to her, that is progress. So to read an article like this, I'm just like so frustrated because some of the studies that they cite in here, it says there was one that was published in 2006, which is a while ago. We probably have new information, and it's a single study. And it doesn't say like how many people were in this study. And so I have questions on that one. There's other things that are like that, they ask other experts, and the experts will say things like, well, walking can help like this, but, and then they present these other things. So what are some of the other exercises? There's weight training. There's doing like stairs, like stair climbing, step ups instead of just walking on a flat surface. There's like mobility kinds of training so that you have more flexibility and agility. Like, okay, that's a great point. We do need to diversify our movements. We do need to add other things that stimulate our bodies in new ways. But I think it's really harsh to just say like walking isn't really doing anything for your health. Like this person is also diabetic. And so she reads in this article that walking didn't improve blood glucose from this one study that says that these patients didn't observe an improvement in blood glucose management. And I just have so many questions because I'm just like, there's so many layers to this that I wanted, and I did talk through this with my client, but it's a prime example of this, it's presented in a very expert way. There's lots of expert opinions, and there's a celebrity coach in here that was interviewed. There's a scientific study that's cited. And I'm just going, look, walking is helping you. Just bottom line, walking is helping you right now. Let's stick with that instead of getting discouraged and thinking you're not doing enough. And then you try and overshoot your goal and do too much. And then you just are like, F it, I'm done.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to respond to this, but I also have a diabetic rant as a diabetic on what you just said afterwards. So remind me.
Is it because you're hungry? Because if you're
No, it's not. It's just the nonsense of what you were just talking about. It's like, oh my God, seriously? So here's the thing, is this article could convey the same message in a totally different way, right? Like it could be like, hey, walking's great for your health. It's a fantastic thing to do. Keep doing it. Here are some other things you could do as well, right? Versus like, walking's great, but it also kind of sucks. So, I mean, keep doing it, but really that's kind of the vibe. It's like, why do you have to shit talk walking? Like, you don't have to do that to make your point, because I think it's more about presenting themselves as right? Like, this is how I do things. And so I have to make this more important than the other thing you might be doing. And that perspective, that approach, man, for me, it just really, it hits wrong.
It's frustrating. And on the flip side, I do agree that
Mhm.
diversifying your athletic activities and your physical activity is a really positive thing that we all should be doing. At the same time, the way this is presented
Yeah.
is it presents walking as being ineffective or subpar. And to my client or other readers, they might take that as, oh, I thought I was doing this great thing for my health, but I'm actually not. And so I think this is again a prime example of how we have to like have a critical eye and ask
Yeah.
someone their opinion when you read this kind of stuff. And unfortunately, the health and fitness industry is just inundated with this kind of
Yeah.
expert opinion on things, and the way things are spun in articles and the media, it's just maddening.
It really is. Okay, so my quick diabetic rant. So
Yeah.
first of
Go.
all, the claim that walking doesn't reduce blood sugars, okay, maybe it didn't for the people in this study. I know as a diabetic myself, it absolutely does.
Mhm.
100%. In fact, it's one of the best ways to help control your blood sugars aside from like medication
Yeah.
and
Like go
food.
after a meal. That's like one
Yeah.
of the main recommendations is get up and move
Yes.
around. Well, go
Yeah.
for a walk. Mm-hmm.
And here's why. Here's why that's I'm going to call bullshit on that without knowing anything. Here I go being an uninformed expert, making very strong claims. But here's why. Is because the beauty of physical exercise as a diabetic is like we typically need insulin to help get blood sugar out of our system into our cells to be used for energy.
Mm-hmm.
Physical activity, muscle contractions bypass the need for insulin. Muscle contractions take the sugar out of your blood and right into your cells to be used for
Mm-hmm.
energy. So physical movement is
Yeah.
100% reducing your blood sugar. Maybe it's not a significant amount to you. Maybe it depends on what you've eaten, how active you are, and what you've done. Oh, okay. But the science of it is you move your body, it pulls blood sugar out of your blood and shuttles it into your cells to be used for energy. So it's 100% going to reduce your blood sugar, any kind of physical activity. That's why it's important to be active. So
Yeah.
anyway, I just needed to say
And
that because that just kind of pissed me off.
yeah, I got this article and I was just like
I mean,
shaking my head and going, damn it.
yeah, I'm
Like,
sorry, but why would you in any way encourage someone with diabetes to not do an
not
activity they like?
well, and
Good
that's
God, this is so stupid.
free and accessible, and
Almost anyone can
anybody,
do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
even if somebody isn't, fully abled, if they can like go out for a quote walk in their
Mm-hmm.
wheelchair or with their walker or in some other way, like,
Mm-hmm.
there's other benefits, like maybe getting out in nature, getting some sunshine. Maybe you have a dog that needs to go out for a walk, and that's
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just was like, oh my God, this is one of those things where I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, you need some context for this article, and to
A lot.
understand that you're not doing something, bad for your health.
Yeah.
So
Geez.
that's a
Yeah.
frustrating one. I do just want to quickly talk about some of the dietary guideline changes over the years, because this is another one that gets confused. So one of the big ones is cholesterol. Back in the 80s and 90s, man, cholesterol was the villain, and it was
Yeah.
studied ad nauseum and really restricted in the dietary guidelines for Americans. A lot of different, cardiology specific guidance was about cholesterol and limiting
Mm-hmm.
or eliminating cholesterol. And now there's no limit to it now. The dietary guidelines are very clear in the kinds of foods to include in your dietary pattern. Those foods are naturally low in cholesterol. So the idea is, well, if we simply we're shifting this thinking into the entire dietary pattern, not specific nutrients, because nutrients are not eaten in isolation. Even individual foods are rarely eaten in isolation. And so, the dietary guidelines are trying to shift this into more applicable kinds of recommendations.
Yeah.
And
Makes sense.
because of that, and we have new research that just says, well, dietary cholesterol doesn't seem to have a profound impact on heart disease outcomes or,
Mm-hmm.
Cardiovascular health. And so that's an example of one.
which that can be a tricky one because you've had experts in medical fields who have for a long time like really harped on cholesterol. And let's be honest, there are a lot of people out there who don't like to be wrong. And they will sink themselves further into a hole of wrongness just so they can feel like they're right. They will just so they can feel like, yeah, they're doing the right thing.
Diving into the wrongness pool.
The wrongness. Yep. Seriously,
Yep. Another one is added sugar. So we used to talk about just sugar in general. Now we're looking more at added sugars. And, I got to be honest, I have a little bit of a problem with this one too, because there's added sugar in different food products. Like I always ask people, what's the nutrient package you're getting with that sugar? So for example, added sugar to like a yogurt cup. Okay, you're getting some protein, you're getting some calcium and some electrolytes, you're getting, a nice filling, versatile kind of food that has a lot of benefits, maybe some fat in there versus added sugar in something else, like in something that's just a heavily processed, like in, I don't know. I don't really pick on foods, but let's
Cocoa
say
Pebbles?
breakfast cereal is a good example, just because there are benefits to that too. There's, it's basically like taking a multivitamin, but what else are you getting with that added sugar? Right. So just kind of helping people suss out what do I really need to be looking at? Sodium is another one that was removed as a nutrient of concern. When I work with athletes, I really don't talk about limiting sodium because again, if you're having sodium in things like, bean soups and salad dressings that are on salad and some of these things, right. The package you're getting with that sodium is actually a very nutritious package versus the added sodium that you might get from, say, like a fast food meal. Not saying there's, you shouldn't be eating fast food, but look at the nutrient package you're getting with that. And are you meeting some other needs like fiber and, lots of vitamins and minerals? So it's just paying, the dietary guidelines have not necessarily gone back on themselves. Like it's not like they're contradicting what they have said in 20, 30 years ago. Right. Basically, they're trying to evolve the recommendations to match what we're seeing in real time with human food decisions, that people need a little more guidance in choosing dietary patterns and choosing foods instead of looking at just the sodium on something. Because how many times will people look at just the sodium and then they read something else that says, oh, but you need to watch saturated fat. So then they look at that. Oh, you need to watch added sugar. So they look at that. And pretty soon they're like, I can't fucking eat anything. Like I can't eat anything.
Yeah. Exactly. Which I think is where a lot of people are. Right? Like I can't eat anything boxed. I can't eat anything canned. I can't eat anything frozen. I can't eat anything in a package that I have to open. I can't eat anything that's not organic. I can't eat anything that hasn't been like, cage free. I can't eat anything, it's just like, it's insane. And it's because of experts.
I know.
Right? Hey, we just came full circle. It's because of experts who are looking at things in such a micro way, who are looking at just data and not how it applies to real, like dynamic, ever evolving human beings, right? There's so many things that go into this that it's just, it can get so difficult so quick to even know what the hell you're supposed to do.
Yeah. So, and just to say, that doesn't mean that the dietary guidelines should not be trusted or that some of these recommendations that come out should not be trusted. It just means that they are really constantly evolving. And so don't be surprised. We watched this happen with COVID. We watched this happen with the vaccine development and learning about this virus and how it spreads. It was a very, real example of what happens when science is moving so quickly and new recommendations were coming out like literally every week. And people were like, oh, you can't effing trust the scientists or the doctors. And I'm like, they're just getting new information so quickly. Like you just have to take it with a grain of salt.
Because that's how science works, like people,
Yeah.
and here's the thing is like, you need to understand that even though, like, let's take trainers. I'll pick on trainers since I'm a trainer. There are a lot of trainers out there that are pretty dumb. Okay. As far as like understanding scientifically what's happening, as far as like dedicating themselves to, they just like to work out and they want to help you. Okay.
Mhm.
Great. But body movement is science, right?
Mhm.
Like how your body adapts to different stimuli is science. How your body responds to different foods is science. And so there is an element of this. It's constantly changing. It's adapting.
Yep.
We just learn more, and we have to be able to flex with that, or else we're deciding things our way because that's the way we're comfortable with. And we want to be right about it.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to end with a little humor today.
Erin's got a comedy routine.
I have some funny things to share. So if you are on YouTube, you can see these, and I will do my very best to post links so you all can find these if you're not watching on YouTube and you want to look this stuff up later. But for example, we have a 1930s cigarette ad for Lucky Strike that says 20,679 physicians say Luckies are less irritating, and it's toasted. Your throat protection against irritation, against cough, which Michael and I were both like, there's some grammar issues with this thing. First of all,
against irritation, against cough. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
So almost 21,000 physicians said smoking Luckies is less irritating, which is to imply, like in a sneaky way, it's probably better for you, right? So smoke these instead. This is the healthy cigarette.
Yeah. So then I found this other article that I started looking through this before Michael and I hopped on, and I was like, okay, I'm going to save these as a surprise because they're egregious. So egregious. Let's get into this. So first we have for pep and vigor, we have vitamin donuts.
Vitamin donuts.
Yeah. So this, and I don't have a date for some of these, but I'll link them so you all can get a kick out of this. So vitamin donuts are the first one. This one is an ad, stay fit and slim by taking amphetamine.
It'll help you lose weight. Meth.
And then this is, I hate laughing at this because it's actually really, I have like some, moral conflict going on laughing at this, but it's a 1940s advertisement. So there were obviously some experts out there that said like, hey, how about we promote amphetamine for weight loss? How about this one? And having worked in childhood nutrition, this one really, stands out for me. It's a Coca-Cola ad that says, for a better start in life, start cola earlier. And it's got a picture of a baby and a mom on it. And talks about like how soon is too soon. So again, this, these advertisements, not all of them are, promoted by experts, like the doctors saying smoke Lucky Strikes, but they were allowed by someone who, I mean, they had to be approved, you know? So let's see. Cigars de Joy's cigarettes cure asthma. So this is one that is an 1800s advertisement for cigarettes to cure asthma.
So if you have asthma, get these cigarettes from the 1800s. That's your answer. Ditch your inhaler, start smoking.
So there's an advertisement. This one is, I don't know what year this is, but it's an advertisement that just says there's a stork with a baby. This is the best things in life come in cellophane. And there's a baby wrapped in cellophane. And the caption is like, in reality, a baby would suffocate in this situation. So like even depicting
it's in a closed bag
is ridiculous. I know. So again, this one is bad skin is usually nature punishing you for internal neglect. So this guy is promoting ingesting yeast to make your skin healthier in the 1930s. So this is a physician who promoted this.
Nature's all about punishing you.
Yeah. So this was one I was like, oh, Michael, we got to stop so I can let you see this. So this advertisement says, burn. I can't even.
This is not real.
I can't even speak. Burn old flashlight batteries in the fireplace now and then. The burning zinc may help prevent soot formation, and the metals and chemicals make colorful flames. So this is in the 50s that, yeah, it just, anyway. Apparently, zinc batteries could be burned harmlessly in a fire back in the 50s, but this is just like an example of how things have changed, because modern batteries would be terribly toxic if you just toss them into your fireplace. So there's that one too. Okay, here's an asbestos pad for your dining room table.
Eat off asbestos. Yeah, don't just have it in your home. Eat off of it.
Yeah. Have this carcinogen pad under your food so that's another one. Say goodbye to depression by using phosphorine tonic wine that apparently cures depression. So let's take drugs.
You're depressed? Here's a
cure our depression. Mm-hmm. And then here's one about peer pressure where there's Boy Scouts drinking Budweiser. No one likes to be left out, and we don't want you to be. You want to fit in. We understand. So go ahead. Next time your friends are drinking, join right in. Like, what? I know. So, wow. God, it just keeps going, you guys. I hope our listeners are still tuned in, because this is going a little bit longer.
Yeah.
This is another Lucky Strike that's talking about it has less irritation. Here's one. Sugar can be the willpower you need to undereat. I mean, so many things wrong with this one. And I think I've shared this one on here before, but yeah, there's some awful ones. There was Ovaltine way back when that was, sort of a chocolate milkshake kind of promotion. Just saying you'll get your vitamins through that. Guinness is good for you. You can feel your glass of Guinness doing you good. Guinness Stout is a really fine drink. Guinness is good for you. I mean,
Guinness gives you power.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's do one more. So this one is Coca-Cola is being promoted as the ideal brain tonic. A delightful summer headache and winter beverage. Yeah. Relieves mental and physical exhaustion.
This must have been back when it had cocaine in it.
Yeah. Does it say
because 1800s? If that's the case, true, right?
It's from the 1800s. So you get that, and you get your amphetamine, and you're losing weight, and you feel mentally and physically. So I hope that wrapped up, ended this on a positive note for everybody. Pretty entertaining.
Yep.
So right. I guess, meaning in the mundane.
I just want to say this real quick, just like, so for me, just to recap, to put a bow on it, like, experts are great. They serve a real strong purpose. I think they're important, but I think as non-experts, we just need to hold them loosely, right? We need to take agency for educating ourselves as much as we can, for doing our due diligence to compare sides, to seek out other people's input and opinions on the matter and that kind of stuff. Because it is important, because it's too easy, especially now in the social media age, to see something to be convinced, And I think oftentimes we're quickly convinced of something that is not entirely accurate, or maybe 100% false. So just take your time, hold this stuff loosely, do the things you need to do to make a informed and educated decision for yourself.
Yep. Good wrap up. I have one more. I just have to read to you.
Oh, did you do it?
I have one more. I'll share it just real quick in case anybody wants to see it when they're on here. It's an advertisement with like these kind of cartoon, like a dog, an apple, and a cow, and a potato, and a chicken. And they're singing, DDT is good for me. Okay, so that's our last one.
Oh, DDT. Just a big bowl of DDT in the morning.
Good for me.
Oh.
All right.
You got a
so
me in the mundane?
I do. And it ties back to my discussion about Matt being sick with COVID. So he was just really out of it for several days. And I tested 3 times now and I've remained negative the whole time. And so I think I dodged this bullet. And consequently, I was just like living my life. I was riding my bike with people. I went and watched this bike race downtown and, kept going with work and all kinds of stuff. And I just really, yesterday we were sitting in the evening, just talking and kind of catching up. And I realized there was so much just in 10 or 11 days that I didn't get to share with him because he was so sick and just out of it. And he was sleeping half the time. And so, you don't realize the little pieces of your day that you share with your partner until they're not there. They're not available. Right. And I was just like, man, I missed him. And I told him that I really missed you because you were home the whole time and I could sit and watch tennis or, Tour de France with you, but you were incapable of being truly present and being in my life in the way that I'm used to. And now that he's starting to come out of it, I just was like, oh my gosh, I really have this fresh appreciation for having his, companionship and his attention and his interest and his personality and all of that stuff. So,
oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
You were missed, Matt.
You were missed.
You were missed. For me, it was a week and a few days ago. It was Sunday morning. I think Lila must have stayed the night at a friend's, and then Kat and Sophie were gone for some reason. But I just had this Sunday morning, weekend morning to myself, where I got to sit quietly and have my coffee. I put some music on for a little while. I took time and made a breakfast that I would enjoy, not thinking about hey, what is everybody going to eat? I got to just take time. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I've had a weekend morning to myself.
Wow.
Never. And so I just sat in the living room with music on, I was quiet for a while, just enjoyed my coffee, just kind of puttered around. And it was just a really nice little, I felt like a little gift, just a few hours to myself and on a weekend morning. It was great. Yeah.
I love it.
Very fun. Very fun.
Those are great moments.
Yeah. So you were wanting your family to come back and I was glad mine was away. No, I wasn't really, but I just took advantage of it.
I just think it's good to be grateful for that time by yourself and recognizing hey, I like hanging out with myself and just doing my own thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, audience.
All right.
Thanks, listeners.
Thank you for listening. Remember to share this, subscribe, rate, review on wherever you're listening or watching this. We'd really appreciate that.
Yeah. And stay tuned for our Instagram live, which, that's going to come up later in August. I didn't even look up the date.
August 22nd.
22nd. We will be doing an Instagram live.
Mountain time.
So barring any craziness, we'll have it
incidents.
So join us and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening.
Hey, bye.